Hello and welcome to Stanford Black's Women in Tech video series, the aim of which is to progress and support women in the technology and finance industries. Stanford Black's one of London's leading technology and trading recruitment firms. It works with both organisations and candidates to ensure placements are the right fit on both sides and therefore long-term. Today's conversation is focusing on imposter syndrome. So I'm delighted that joining me are Dr. Nadia Zahir, Head of Data Science at Lean Technologies Development Limited. Hello, Nadia.
Hi.
Maria Shevchenko, Director of Innovation at KPMG. Hello, Maria.
Hi, Laura.
And Hayley Newman, a software engineer at Deutsche Bank. Hello, Hayley.
Hi.
A very warm welcome to you all. So let's get going. I'd like to start by asking each of you briefly to outline what imposter syndrome means to you individually. Nadia, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So intellectual phoniness is what I call it, or feeling like a fake, and the fear of being found out at any point in time and being called out, that person who talks about things but doesn't know about things. So that's what imposter syndrome is for me.
And Maria, what about yourself?
I would probably agree with Nadia. It's this sensation of getting away with something and someone finding out.
And Hayley, what about for yourself?
It was quite ironic how when I got asked to do this, my first response was, I don't think I have anything to say. And I was like, that's imposter syndrome. Because I was like, I don't think I'm the right person to ask. And then I was like, I've experienced it. I'm in the tech industry. I've been here 6 years. I've gone through that multiple times. So it's just like, why not? It's not feeling good enough in the position you're in, so you don't feel like you can do what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. So Is it worse as a woman working in technology or finance, do you think? Or do you think it's just as crucial or can have as big an impact on the men in the industries you work with?
Laura, I can maybe start with this one because I looked at some of the statistics just to make sure I've got some numbers, and up to 82% of all people have reported that they have felt like an imposter. And in our recent KPMG study, we also discovered that 75% of female executives have felt at one point of their career or perhaps throughout their whole career as an imposter. And again, statistically speaking, it does impact more females and minorities, but it doesn't mean that the men don't suffer from it either.
Adding to that, in my experience, I've more male colleagues coming up and admitting to it and feeling like they're not good enough, or they were feeling that they didn't know this and they would want to learn more about it. And that too in an environment where they would feel safe talking to a woman about it rather than another colleague where they would be judged more harshly. So, and even like little girls, especially my daughter, she also thinks about like, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this animation is not good enough. And so I believe it's not just adult who are facing it. It's just kids as well, because of the peer pressure and the environment they're in. It's highly competitive all throughout our lives. So yes, I think it's everywhere.
And Hayley, what about yourself? Because you work, in a male-dominated part, particularly in finance. Is it a case that you feel happy, perhaps saying, "Oh, I'm not quite sure about something," or do you find that it would only be yourself that would say it rather than your male colleagues?
Yeah, I think it's hard because when you're surrounded, I've worked with, I think, one woman in the 6 years, pretty much for in my teams since I started, and I found that was like amazing, because then we could be like, oh, we both don't know what's going on. And but it's hard because when you're surrounded by men, I think there's that feeling of going, oh, I can't say that I don't know what I'm doing. They must know what they're doing. But then I've learned to just say it, just get, whether they're male or female, just get onto a friendly kind of level with everyone and just be like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. Like and then you find when you do it more, like people more open up to you. So it's hard. It is hard when you're surrounded by men and you just assume they obviously know what you're doing. And it's the kind of, men tend to be programmers, so obviously they're going to be better. But that's just like a societal like pressure. So you kind of think, I've got to know what I'm doing because I'm surrounded by people that do, but that's not always the case.
And would you say that it would have had a detrimental effect by admitting it? Or do you think that was a fear that was perhaps in your head before you did feel brave enough to say, actually, I'm not quite sure what's going on?
It's not detrimental. I found it's so much better. Like I've actually been lucky with the people I've worked with, and they said, if you don't know what this is, just tell us. And I'd be scared to. For so long, I was so scared to like say, I don't get this. And then I actually don't learn because I don't ask. And because of that, it's worse. So it's definitely, I think there's that first pressure to not say anything. I think once you get over that, you're going to learn more, you're going to be better. Like people around you are going to be more open. It's kind of, yeah, it's great to do, really.
Well done for doing that. But do you think that, your statistics as well, Maria, where it's executive level as well, do you think it will ever go away? Or do you think that perhaps women are more susceptible to imposter syndrome?
For me, it's probably been throughout my whole career and life. Because and to Haley's point, it's been a little bit different. It's been more around that some of the things have come so easy to me that I'll be like, oh, surely it's going to be more harder. Like, and then as a result of it, you get recognitions or some of the promotions, and then it kicks in for me, and I'm like, well, why am I here? I don't think I deserve this. This was such a trivial thing that I needed to pull off, and then you start self-sabotaging, and I think that's when it becomes, because then I start saying, oh, I just fake it till you make it, or I really didn't do much. And over the years, the more I heard myself saying this, I just realized that no, actually, people recognize me for what I do, recognize me for the talent, but it's me who then tells them, no, guys, you should actually doubt what you're promoting me for. You should doubt for the recognition you're giving me, because it was just a fluke. And I had to change it quite actively. And it doesn't mean that it has gone away, but it's more of a, I don't want to drag myself down.
For me, it was like before I did my PhD, I was super overconfident and I thought I knew everything about everything. And after that, I realized there is so much to know. And the more I know, the more I don't know. And that actually caused me like, okay, maybe I really don't know this and I need to go and find out. And instead of sabotaging my career, it made me learn and go and study and take courses actively. Like after putting my daughter to bed, I would be studying and learning, so that in the morning when somebody's asking me that particular question, I'm more prepared, and that would give me confidence. Another point and tip that actually works: compare yourself to yourself, not to others, because look how far you've come. Look at your journey. Look at the improvements you've made, and look at the recognition you've gotten, and not because you're comparing yourself to others, but because you're comparing yourself to your own achievements.
And do you think of yourself, Haley, as a role model, because you've said, you're literally the only woman on your team, or you've only worked with men for the past 6 years? Do you see yourself as that role model?
I never would have put it in those words, and I think that's just the confidence thing of saying, because when you say you're a role model, it's like people look up to you and stuff like that, and I would never say that. But I think I've recognized, because I was for so long, I felt it for so long when I came in as a grad, and then after a couple of years I'd still kind of felt it, but I'd also recognize it in other younger grads, and I could kind of see it. So from that, I would have a conversation with them. I can be quite social, but also like not very formal. And so I just have a conversation. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, and when they'd see that, they'd be like, oh yeah, no, nor do I. And I think that helped them.
For me personally, it's been the element that Haley mentioned. There are no role models. So as I've been through my tech career, finance career, data career, I haven't seen anyone wearing a skirt or having longer hair or being a woman. So I just thought, was this all a fluke? Was I just here by mistake? That has been the one that made me probably doubt more.
for women, we need to be perfect in every aspect of our lives, and perfect means this added pressure of being a good mom, being a good professional, being a good leader at home, at work. So we have so many balls that we are juggling, and if we drop one ball, we feel like, okay, maybe I'm going to drop the next ball. Maybe I'm not good enough to do this, and then you start doubting yourself.
Stand for Black's Women in Tech series is all about progressing and helping women in finance and tech. What would you say individually there? Because we've mentioned them already, those tools, those tips that you would say to someone who is experiencing it. Hayley, you've obviously said, this has worked by actually admitting it. Is that the only thing you would recommend? Or do you each have some tips that you would pass on that have been useful for yourselves?
Yeah, I think for me, it's always talk about it. It's always be open about it. I mean, I say that and I don't always do it, but I think talking about anything like you're feeling, because a lot of the time other people are feeling the same way. So you say it and then they'll say it, and it's kind of opens the air and a little bit.
As Hayley mentioned, admitting and accepting it yourself is the first step. And then once you know that, study, learning never stops. Compare yourself to yourself. Your journey is your journey alone. Look how far you've come, and then fake it till you make it.
I would say fake it till you become it, as opposed to make it. But I agree with Hayley, and obviously having that feeling within me for such a long time, I also questioned a lot about what I could do. And to me, it also comes to authenticity and leadership, because as a leader, I want to lead by an example, and that means being vulnerable and telling juniors and seniors that this is what I'm struggling with, or this is where I'm doubting myself. Because then those people can look up, hopefully, and say, oh, none of them are perfect, or none of them are porcelain dolls, or these supermodels that look perfect and know everything, because that's what I lacked. I looked at all of my leadership and it seemed like they knew everything about anything. And their lives were perfect, and then I could never aspire to become one. So the more I actually started talking about all of my challenges, not just this, but just saying, here's where I'm struggling. This is weak. This week is a little weaker because of, I don't know, some sort of family matters, or, the more I feel that people opened up and we could talk more about it, and grow from it together. It's also good to have sponsors or mentors in the firm, more seniors who again kind of help you with that transition up and elevate you, because then it's not just about fake it till you become it, but there's actually a few other people who are supporting me in that journey and seeing that, and I think we need more of that, irrespective again of gender.
Would you say that perhaps for some, imposter syndrome could be a barrier to getting that, and where a mentor can really help within the organisation is because if you don't believe in yourself, how are your peers, particularly, or even those who are senior to you, promote you or help with that progression?
We have mid-year and year-end reviews, and in mid-year reviews, we were comparing males and females for the next level of promotions. And all of the males were ready to be promoted in the next, 12 months. All of the females, who in some cases were far stronger than those male counterparts, were ready to be promoted in 2 to 3 years. And I asked the team, the leadership, I was like, why do you think that's the case? And they're like, oh, but they have never raised it. The girls have never raised that they want to be promoted. And I was like, well, it doesn't mean that they don't want to be promoted. It's just, I don't go and, beat my chest or say I'm amazing or behave in a bit more extravagant way that males can do, because it's not common for me as a woman. But it doesn't mean that I don't want to be promoted, and it doesn't mean that I don't deserve it. So I think we also need to change our perception and ask some of those tricky questions of, if they haven't said something, does it mean that they're not interested? And again, how do we support that throughout? So we don't promote those who always, talk or are the loudest, or the most social ones, or whatever else we promote them for. But equally, some of those who are more quieter but get all the work done and get the work done are also recognized.
Women, when they look at a job, to go for a job, they have to hit like 100% of the points to be able to feel like they can go for the job. Whereas men, obviously not always, but men do tend to look and go, oh, I can do some of those. I'll go and try. And it's the same when you're when you want to get promoted and stuff like that. And I think it comes from society, unfortunately, like early on, like men are told like, you can do this, and women can be, you can be like, yeah, like it's just, you're not promoted as much to try and do these things, but something needs to change. And I hope talking about it changes it, and you get more people in higher position, more women in higher positions, and opening the door for everyone else to come up. Hopefully.
Yeah. But it's also about like feeling insecure about something. For example, let's say you admit it and nobody else comes forward and says like, yeah, I feel the same. Then you feel like, okay, I feel threatened. Maybe if I'm not good enough and I've admitted this and I'm vulnerable, I would no longer have this job, or it would be taken away, because there's only like very few women. And I have felt that way as well in certain of my previous lives, where if I admit it and I'm the only person who's supposed to keep it together and look and promote and support everybody, I would be the one not a perfect role model in that kind of a place. But what I've started doing is I admit that I'm insecure about this. For example, it starts not just with the career, but also like in personal life. I felt insecure about my body weight, let's just say that, and started working on it really hard. And I slowly, all the insecurities that come with it, feel good, look good, that gives you confidence. I'm just trying to say is, if you recognize your insecurities, you work on it, and that makes you deal with imposter syndrome much better, rather than just admitting it and not doing much about it.
Stanford Blank work with the recruiters, when they're recruiting, it's not just the organizations who are looking to recruit more women into tech and finance, but also the candidates, and having that time, being able to articulate what your strengths are and what you excel at is really, really important. Do you think the industries have changed at all, perhaps say in the last 10 years, when it comes to equality and perhaps having the number of role models? Hayley, you're clearly saying that where you are, it's still a traditional mindset. The female workers and employees are much fewer than the male ones. Would you say that's true across the board in finance and tech still?
I don't know, because I've only been in the industry for 6 years. I was very pleasantly surprised when I joined Deutsche Bank, where I am now. I kind of went on this course that they put on for the grads that was on for 2 weeks. Half of them were women, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I haven't turned up into a course before, and I think over half were women. There was like one more woman than there was a man. And I was like, what's going on? This is great. Like, I think it's coming through the grad programs, and they are more coming through. But it needs to feed up, really.
I would actually say that it's been a massive improvement, but it has a few consequences as well. For example, when I started, I was the only girl in the entire tech division, where I was. The manager didn't hire me for 3 months. The file kept staying on his desk, and this is one of the largest telcos we're talking about. But this was 14 years ago. And at that time, I had to prove myself extra hard that I'm better than the guys around. Would work like late nights till early mornings to make sure that everything is done perfectly. And then not just that. 3 years down the line, there were more women, and 5 years, because the expectation was women will come, they'll get married, and then they'll leave the job. That's why we don't want to hire women. We'll be investing in them for no reason, and it's a loss for the company. And then 5 years down the line, I saw all the women on the floor, married, with families on their way, and it was an amazing experience. And then afterwards, the recognition and inclusion campaign and all around the world, it ensured that women get a spot in the leadership positions. But then when I talked to these women, they started doubting it, whether we got it because we are a female or whether we got it because we actually came on the merit for that job. And recently, when I started applying for different positions as well, I didn't want to be seen as somebody who's filling in the diversity quota. I would want to be there because I know what I'm doing, or because of my talent and my skills, rather than being the person who's just trying to fill in a female gender spot.
Is it the wider industry and these conversations that are so critical to not only sharing what can be imposter syndrome for women working in tech and finance, but also being able to get that change so there is noticeable change and hopefully parity at some point? What do you think, Maria?
I think we definitely need to talk about it. And I agree with Nadia and Haley that things are changing. It probably won't change over the next 2 or 3 years or 5 years. It's going to take time to change it. And I see, again, as juniors or STEM background, there's a lot of more girls that are venturing into engineering, into technology, coding, data, you name it. And it's absolutely fantastic. The top layer, still very slim. And the challenge where we are having is, to Nadia's point, not everyone, or Haley's point, not everyone stays through that journey. And that element is still tricky to change. And there's some interesting stats I just posted yesterday on LinkedIn, how lockdown has impacted women, because it's still just us who can have kids, right? So if we give birth, it's very difficult to come back to work or to juggle then the child caring responsibilities and still feel like you're contributing, even though, you're distracted quite often because you need to feed, you need to clean, you need to wash, you need to bathe, you need to put someone to sleep. It's a challenge. And I think with that, we just need to recognize that I don't know, I don't believe in perfection. I think a lot of my challenges came that I tried being this perfect in everything. And we just need to recognize that, yes, unless men decide that they're going to bathe, they're going to cook, they're going to clean, there is going to be a disparity between what a woman typically needs to handle and do. And as a result, she won't be there the same amount of hours. And staying till late or waking up early to compensate for that, I think is unreasonable, because it's only going to lead to burnout. And as a result of it, more and more women will say, well, I've tried, it's impossible, I want out. Up until probably more recently, it was really impossible. And we had to compete on equal terms with men, which means sacrificing family, sacrificing some other priorities. But we can't do that anymore.
I can't speak from experience, but my old manager that I had, he, during the pandemic, he was on my team, so we'd always have a meeting in the morning, and he would, a lot of the time, he'd be holding his baby, and he would let his baby just walk in. She's a little toddler, so she's just learning to walk, and she'd stumble in the room and just kind of walk around the background. And he was like, I think it's important that you see my home life and see that this is how I have to work. So I found that really kind of inspiring to watch and go, yeah, we should, as a company, people should be able to have their kids in the background and just be able to go, look, I've got to look after my child, but I can still work.
I would like to bring in one thing that I read from a researcher who's her thesis is on imposter syndrome. And what she found out was it impedes your career. If you suffer from it, it impedes your career. But in my experience, I've realized it doesn't impede my career. It actually boosts it, because I know that I suffer from it. So I have to work extra hard, put in that effort, and make sure that it doesn't impede my career. So that effort in not letting it impede your career, it's your decision, it's your choice, and it's your effort. So make sure it does not. Even though the research is saying it, your experience will help you boost all of this into a positive energy that you can make sure helps you go a long way and be on your journey.
Well, a big thank you to you all, to Haley, Nadia and Maria. And don't forget, if you're looking to find out more about Stanford Black's Women in Tech video series, then head to stanfordblack.com and click on #SB Women in Tech. And you can also follow the conversation on Stanford Black's LinkedIn page, #SB Women in Tech. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.